Hello, everybody. My name is Tang from Hughes. Even before COVID-19, the banking industry was already in a state of flux. Most were already in the final stages of rationalizing their branch footprints, and many were starting to deploy smaller branch foot formats in support of a hub and spoke strategy. Many banks had already tested and even deployed interactive video tellers, while at the same time being very concerned about diluting the customer's branch experience and, more importantly, their relationship with the bank, but still having no choice due to the need to minimize the staffing and costs in the branch. Now, the pandemic has dramatically magnified the customer's transition to mobile. Branch traffic in April, May of this year dropped 30% in comparison to previous years. Personal safety is a huge and powerful motivator to persuade even the non-digitally inclined customer to change their behavior. What's left now are the more complicated problems, both for the consumer and, more importantly, for the small business owners, whose need for help with complex financial situations closely aligns with the strengths and capabilities of the local branch. Financial complexity aligns and creates the greatest opportunity for the branch to bring value to their customers. And there is good news. Some branches are succeeding during the pandemic. The small business market need for PPP loans has stimulated new opportunities to serve. The COVID-19 crisis has justified a dramatic acceleration of technology deployments that would have taken years down to weeks. And recent WBR surveys indicate that customer satisfaction is increasing. Where customers were once known to prefer visiting the dentist over visiting their banks, customers now enjoy the efficiencies that come with new technologies. For example, with mobile appointment scheduling, which has been employed during the pandemic to maximize the reduced availability at the branch, it's resulted in branch employees being very well prepared for each customer. The customer can safely walk in, complete their business, and walk out. Now, the next question is, what else is there? And to help answer that question, today I have the privilege of speaking with James Briggs, CEO and founder of AI Collaborator. James, would you mind telling us about yourself, please?
First of all, Tim, thank you for having me. I'm president and founder of AI Collaborator. We are a startup AI innovation firm. What we do is we help enterprises overcome deficiencies in their business to more efficiently deploy AI. Again, thank you for having me and looking forward to the discussion.
James, if you could maybe start us with, how would you characterize the business challenges that have been brought about by COVID-19?
So, as you know, the COVID crisis has hit every industry, and of course, banking is no exception. But one of the exciting things that we're seeing is that there's sort of four key realizations that leaders have sort of embraced in order to move forward from the crisis. And those realizations are uncertainty, whether it's COVID or something else, maybe climate, whatever. There's uncertainties here to stay. And so how do we make our businesses more resilient as a result of that? Then safety, where we got comfortable talking about user experiences, we now have to embrace safety experience. And what does that mean? How do we convince customers to come back into our branches, come back into our locations, and really trust that they're safe in our environments? In addition to that, there's workforce dynamics. So who are our critical employees? How do we make sure that they're rewarded, and how do we make sure that they're there for us when these uncertain things happen? And then finally is changing customer preferences. And you, of course, have hit on that from the banking perspective, moving over to mobile. But it's, of course, is happening more broadly too, right? So customers are not buying the exact same thing that they were prior to the crisis. And in fact, they're not even buying in the same way. So how do businesses adapt to accommodate these customers? And the thing that we're seeing overall is leaders are really starting to embrace AI as a business imperative. How can we allow AI to help us really, to steal a phrase, build back better? How do we move forward in this new dynamic, leveraging these technologies in order to really to fortify our business and be prepared for all these different dynamics that we now have gotten temporarily used to?
Oh, thanks. Banks are certainly maturing in their use of AI. What once started with RPA, automation of the back office paperwork, has now grown into customer-facing self-help chatbots. And now with Wells Fargo's Advanced Listening initiative, they're engaging natural language processing, NLP, to analyze customer communications across all channels: email, text, phone, online, call center, and then prompt the employee on how to best service all of the customer needs, not just the ones they're talking about. It also helps them monitor employee compliance with bank policies. Bank of America is not only using NLP with Erica, their AI-enabled chatbot that serves over 16.7 million customers. They're also using NLP to analyze earning calls, to characterize the risk of a company defaulting on a loan. And TD Bank bought an AI company to leverage AI to not only to analyze and assess the variety of data types to predict a customer's need, but to also identify and detect fraud. James, how do you see other industries using AI to achieve tangible business results?
Well, of course it varies depending on the industry itself, right? And the one thing that we always encourage any customer to think is it's yes, look at what your competitors are doing, but also do look more broadly to see what's going on out there and see what you can bring in. And it really comes down to now, like I said a bit earlier, is that AI is an imperative for going forward. So where are the best opportunities within your business? When I look at one of the things that really excite me that I've seen from this crisis is what retail has done, big retail, right? So if you look at Target, Walmart, any of these big box stores, Lowe's, others, these guys are thriving, and yes, it's because customers are there's a need there, right? But it's about the infrastructure and about what they've embraced. They really have embraced this omni-channel way of executing, right? And so with that, if you look beneath a lot of the things that they're doing, most will tell you that AI is playing a big part of them anticipating that customer's need and helping them solve that customer's need wherever that customer wants to enter their channel, whichever channel that customer chooses to engage with them, right? And I think that's an opportunity for banking as well. And so what I hope banking doesn't do is spend so much time investing AI to cut costs when there's also great opportunities to be creative, to leverage AI, to improve ROI, and to build stronger relationships with their customers.
That's a very good way to put it. It's not only about gaining additional efficiencies from cutting costs, but also creating new business opportunities and new revenue streams. One of the challenges with AI, though, is that it's so mysterious. And I was wondering if you could maybe help us take some of the mystery out of AI. Provide perhaps some guidance, if you would, please, on how to get started and how to start thinking about AI.
Well, the first thing that I would say the most is there are a lot of and I hate to use the word hype, but if you're sitting in your buyers, your leaders' shoes, it's easy to think that everybody's doing everything and we're being left behind. The good news is you're not being left behind. The majority of folks now haven't really gotten going on executing AI. So most folks are in the early stages of their AI maturity. So the good news is you haven't gotten left behind, but the bad news is you're about to be if you don't take action. And then what is the number one thing that you have to do when you get started? Get your data story and get your data story together, but don't use that as an excuse not to get going. There are plenty of innovations that are going on with data itself to help companies more efficiently get what they need to start testing, to start executing and solving with AI. And the point that we, of course, are always very focused on is helping the customer understand is they do not have to go it alone. A lot of our customers, and actually it's a starting point of conversation for us, right, is a lot of our customers lack the resources that they need to start to solve in-house. And so that actually leads to a lot of them sitting on the sidelines. What we embrace, of course, is collaboration. We built this network of over 1,200 AI startups around the world, and we bring those startups in and engage them with that customer, pair them up with data science resources and other critical resources to help that customer overcome the challenges in their business and really start experimenting with AI and getting some of the results under their belts. And so that's what we would really suggest is, yes, get going, start experimenting, and start embracing and start collaborating.
You've touched on actually probably one of the key areas as we think about AI, right? On the one hand, it's very difficult to go find data scientists in terms of that talent pool out there. Kind of like cybersecurity is very limited, and it's very much sought after. The those who do it very well there's an enormous competition for that level of talent. At the same time, there are thousands upon thousands of AI startups that are out there. Could you provide some guidance on how do you sift through all of the AI startups that are out there? How do you know which ones are the good ones and which ones are the ones that you need to maybe stay away from?
So what we do is we go through a very thorough vetting process because we are actually bringing these startups to pair up with large enterprises. So as a part of what we do, we of course we look at their technology, we assess their technology and the capabilities, and we're bringing technical resources to the table on our behalf as well, right? In order to understand what their capabilities are. Then of course we're looking at the use cases. We're ensuring that they've already served enterprise clients relationships. A lot of our partners, startup partners, are in other markets. 60% of the companies we work with come outside of the US. What we also do is, of course, we look at their founders. A great deal of these founders are educated in the US, work for places like Google and these sorts of things, and then have actually taking their talents back into their home country. So Italy, Turkey, these sorts of places. And sort of they're the best of the best over there and focused on one critical problem. And we want to make sure that the innovations that they say that they're doing are things that actually belong to them. And so sort of to sum all that up is really going through a detailed vetting process, and to the extent possible, yes, reach out to folks, to partner with those folks and help them help you and help them and help enable you to understand what a company's capabilities are. So you definitely have to go through your due diligence. But one of the values of AI collaborators is that's what we do for our clients.
We've covered quite a bit of ground here. We've looked at how COVID-19 has impacted the banks. We've talked about how AI may be employed, discussed some use cases, and even talked about how to assess the various AI startups that are out there. James, is there any other advice in closing that you'd like to add to this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely there's the potential of banking and anyone who's going through this crisis, right, to start to retrench and start to pull back. What I've seen and what excites me about what's to come is that those that are really looking to get out of these crises, they're not pulling back. They're actually going forward and they're accelerating. They're accelerating with AI and integrating those technologies into their business. And definitely banking, of course, was being challenged before this crisis, right? You have these digital upstarts that are showing up. You have these large tech providers entering their markets. So what we really encourage them to do is don't think about AI solely in terms of cutting costs. Really, how can you create an omni-channel experience, leverage AI on top of that to really ensure that you're competing at your best. Leverage who you are, embrace who you are, and allow AI to help you execute for the future. Because if anything, the branches are another touch point for those for your customers, right? And what does touch points translate into? They translate into data. And if you have that data and someone else doesn't have that data, that's a tremendous opportunity. So we're excited about the companies, including the banks that we see, who are really embracing every touch point with that customer in order to better compete for their business. And the one that I will point out is U.S. Bank. So we hear a lot about RPA, we hear a lot about chatbots and these types of things, right? But one of the things that struck me was U.S. Bank actually deploying a recommendation engine. So in order to anticipate that customer's needs before they even know that they have needs based on their past behaviors, wherever they've surfaced in that channel. So I'm excited about AI for, of course, for most industry, but I'm also excited about the opportunities to see how financial services industries embrace it in order to make it a big advantage for them, and especially when I go back to the retail space and I see the great things that the big stores are doing and how they've embraced those technologies to beat back their competitors. I think there's a tremendous opportunity also for the financial services industry to do the same type of thing.
James, there's a very jewel of a nugget in what you just said there in terms of, consider who you are and then use AI to basically augment who you are. AI is not going to turn you into somebody else. It's a way and an ability to magnify and expand your ability to bring your brand, to bring your presence to your customer base. At Hughes, we are focused on AI because we have already seen the difference it has made in our own operations. For the past couple of years, we have engaged a team of data scientists to clean up all of our own data, and that was a very tedious exercise. But as a managed network service provider, our AI ops went into production last year, and it has already saved our customers thousands of hours through proactive mitigation techniques. And we continue to grow in our ability to anticipate and solve problems before they would otherwise happen. When it comes to digital transformation, the more digitally capable a bank becomes, the more digitally dependent the bank becomes. And the most common mistake that we see in digital transformation across all industries is the failure to take a holistic view of what is required to achieve the desired customer and employee experience. For example, enormous efforts are always devoted to identifying which AI-enabled clienteling solution to use. Well, very little is invested in assessing the branch's network, Wi-Fi infrastructure upon which that clienteling solution depends on. The results are slow transactions, poor experiences for both the employee and the customer. Common solutions such as T1 and MPLS are just too expensive and they don't provide nearly enough bandwidth. Alternative broadband solutions are congestion prone and they pose meaningful cybersecurity risks. At Hughes, we're enabling digital transformation by providing an employee enterprise-grade SASE solution as a managed service. We're using SD-WAN technologies to solve the broadband congestion problems. And we're not only using market-leading cybersecurity solutions to protect our customers' data, we employ Wi-Fi analytics to create additional insight into customer and employee behavior in the branch. And with over 250,000 enterprise locations, we have proven our ability to manage technology at scale. Managed services is a powerful tool for magnifying your internal capacity for digital transformation. On behalf of Hughes and AI collaborators, we are available to help you with your own AI journey. This is the beginning of a conversation, and our contact information has been provided. Please feel free to reach out and continue the dialogue. There is so much that we can learn from each other. Thank you very much for participating in our webinar.